Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Friday, March 12th. Another unseasonably mild day coming to the Mid-Atlantic region. A place like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City with temperatures well above normal, but much colder air is coming in the overnight hours. Strong high pressure will build into southeastern Canada. Cold front swings on through later in the day today, and again, temperatures will tumble in the overnight hours down to the lower 30s, for example, in Philadelphia after highs this afternoon up in the middle 60s. The winds will become quite strong as well, could even gust to 45 or 50 miles per hour or so in places like New York City in the overnight hours, as again much colder air pushes from the north to the south down along the New England coastline all the way into the Mid-Atlantic region in the overnight hours. So a much cooler weekend shaping up compared to the very mild spell we've experienced over the past few days. The current warm spell kind of peaked yesterday afternoon in the I-95 corridor region. Many spots reached record daily high temperatures in the 70s in the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor, but that will be replaced by much cooler air for the upcoming weekend. Here's a look at the radar map, and of course the other big story, in addition to the warm conditions in the east, is the upcoming long-duration snowstorm for parts of Colorado into Wyoming and some of the western sections of the Central Plains. Especially hard hit will be that corridor between Denver and Cheyenne, Wyoming to the north, and the higher elevations, the foothills and the mountains just to the west, can absolutely get pummeled by significant snowfall from this long-duration event. But we're talking 1 to 2 feet maybe in Denver, up to 30 inches or so in Boulder, Fort Collins, and 2 to 4, maybe even 5 feet in some of those higher elevation areas, the foothills and the mountains to the west of the Denver to Cheyenne corridor. Let's take a look at the U.S. radar map. There is a frontal system moving into the northeastern part of the nation. Not much precipitation at all. Don't expect anything more than a little bit of a light shower or a sprinkle in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Cloudy skies for the next few hours, but expect some sunshine this afternoon, and the winds will start to pick up. Again, high pressure will build across southeastern Canada and send some cold air. Relative to the last few days, for sure, it'll be a cold shock to the system here, and the winds could gust up to 50 miles per hour or so tonight in the New York City area, the southern part of New England, and certainly 40 plus miles per hour down into Philadelphia in the overnight hours. It stays quite breezy really throughout the upcoming weekend. Meanwhile, this little area of precipitation out here across Southern California, the southwestern, actually is the area where an upper level low, the beginning stages of our weekend storm system, an upper level low now moving into the southwestern U.S. We'll see that with upper level maps over the next couple of minutes. This just moves in this fashion here and then kind of deepens and stalls out over the Rocky Mountains, and this particular area will just get pummeled by significant snow during the upcoming weekend. North central Colorado, northeastern Colorado, all the way into southeastern Wyoming, and some of the western sections of South Dakota and Nebraska could get some decent snowfall as well. But this could turn out to be some kind of historic snow amounts in those foothills of the mountains just to the west of Denver and the Denver to Cheyenne corridor over the upcoming weekend. Well, let's take a look at last night's Canadian model run at 0Z. I'm using the Canadian. I think it has a little better handle on the situation early next week in the Mid-Atlantic region. There'll be a weakening system moving into the east. I think the GFS is actually placing a little bit too much emphasis on that system. So let's take a look at the Canadian model. And here's that deep upper level low we alluded to a moment ago, now moving into the southern part of California, the southwestern U.S. This is the beginning stages of what could turn out to be a historic snowstorm for parts of Colorado and Wyoming over the upcoming weekend. Meanwhile, still very mild across the Tennessee Valley, the Mid-Atlantic region, way above normal temperatures right now. But here's that upper level feature over southeastern Canada associated with that surface high pressure system and a colder air mass that will pour down the northeastern part of the nation all the way down into the southern part of the mid-Atlantic region over the next 12 to 24 hours or so. Let's move forward here, and first of all, watch this system out here. It intensifies. It tends to slow down. Here's the forecast map for Sunday morning. And notice the wind direction right here at this part of the atmosphere will be basically out of the east or southeast, and that produces a tremendous upflow right into those foothills and mountains just to the west of Denver and right near Boulder and just to its west. And that a tremendous upslope right here can cause some incredible snowfall amounts over the upcoming week. And again, we're talking potential for 3, 4, 5 feet, some of those higher elevation locations. This system slows down and intensifies, then it tries to pull out into the central plains. You notice it's still ridging out ahead of it on Monday afternoon. In other words, this system will tend to weaken as it spills out over into the eastern U.S. and there will be kind of a remnant area of moisture associated with that Rocky Mountain snowstorm over the weekend that pushes into the mid-Atlantic region early next week, but I think it really loses its punch as the upper level support diminishes, so don't expect much in the way of precipitation in the mid-Atlantic region early next week. And then there's a second trough that moves into the same part of the nation here in the Rocky Mountains here by late Tuesday night time frame, could produce some additional significant snow. Nothing like this weekend, but maybe still significant in that same part of the nation. Colorado Rockies, for example, could get back-to-back snowstorms, and then that may travel all the way across the country and produce a decent storm into the mid-Atlantic region during the latter part of next week. We'll have to closely monitor that over the next several days going into the early and middle part of next week, as there will be some cold air around, so it's something to watch for the end of next week in the mid-Atlantic region, northeast U.S. Let's take a look now at the 700 millibar level. This is what we just looked at with the 500 millibar height anomalies forecast maps. Now we're going down a little bit in the atmosphere to the 700 millibar level, just to kind of emphasize again that upsloping that will develop over the higher elevations to the west of Denver here. Here we are now into Saturday evening and finally Sunday morning. And just take a look at this. Again, this is going to contribute to tremendous upflow right in this region right here. When you get winds over a sustained period of time out of the east or southeast blowing up towards those higher elevations just on the west side of Denver, you can squeeze out a tremendous amount of moisture out of the atmosphere. And indeed, this is the area right in here that can get not only significant snow amounts, but perhaps potentially historic, some of the all-time great snow events in this part of the nation. Again, southeastern Wyoming, places like Cheyenne, Wyoming, down to Denver, Colorado, in the foothills, just to the west there, the higher elevation, the mountains, Boulder, Fort Collins, all in for potentially incredible snowfall amounts, again with a long period of upsloping, and that goes along with warm air advection that will be occurring too in parts of the atmosphere, contributing to excessive total precipitation amounts. And again, it'll be cold enough for that precipitation to be in the form of snow. It may take a while to become all snow. Tonight, the storm really begins out in the Colorado Rockies, maybe as rain, but then by late tonight, early tomorrow morning, it should become cold enough for all snow for the bulk of the upcoming weekend. Again, a long duration event that extends from Friday night all the way through a Sunday night. Well, now let's push forward here and watch what happens to that system as it moves into the Central Plains. It just gets stretched out, and there's not much of a reflection into the Mid-Atlantic region early next week. Again, there can be some moisture that survives the weakening in the upper levels, makes it into the Mid-Atlantic region, and will be just cold enough for some frozen precipitation as a possibility, even down into the D.C. metro region. We'll see that on the surface map in a moment here, but again, doesn't look like it'll be a significant precipitation event in the Mid-Atlantic region. And then here's the reflection at 700 millibar level of that next trough, and again, could be additional significant snowfall, not as bad as this weekend, but still significant in some of the Rocky Mountain states early, middle part of next week. And that second system does work its way across the nation. And again, we'll have to monitor this over the next several days, see what kind of an impact it could have in the Mid-Atlantic region of the Northeast U.S. late next week. We're talking maybe Thursday, Friday of next week. Certainly can be some snow in the higher elevation interior sections of the northeastern part of the nation late next week from this particular system. Again, Thursday, Friday timetable. Well, let's now take a look at the surface forecast maps from the 0Z run of the Canadian model. Again, a weak reflection of a cold frontal passage here in terms of radar echoes. Nothing more than a passing light shower over the next couple of hours. In fact, the skies should clear somewhat in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, from mostly cloudy this morning to some sunshine this afternoon. The winds will pick up as well in intensity. And take a look at this by late tonight. Look at this pressure gradient between a departing low pressure area up here and this strong Canadian high pressure system that drops in the upper Midwest by late tonight. Right here, all these lines of equal pressure known as isobars. Winds will blow stronger when this pressure gradient is tighter, and they generally flow in the direction of those isobars clockwise around high. So this is going to produce a strong flow of air like this in the overnight hours. Again, could gust up to 45, 50 miles per hour tonight in New York City, maybe up to 40 plus in Philadelphia. Out of the north to northwest, much colder air moves in the overnight hours associated with that strong high pressure system that builds into the southeastern part of Canada and the northeastern U.S. Well, let's now move forward into the upcoming weekend, and here we go, that high pressure in control here, and here we go, the beginnings of that major long-duration snowstorm for the Colorado Rockies up to southeastern Wyoming. Surface reflection here of low pressure over near the Four Corners region here by Saturday afternoon. And again, look at this fetch of air. Winds flow counterclockwise around low pressure areas, so they'll be flowing in this fashion right here, and that's going to lead to this historic snowstorm out there, at least historic in some sections, with some incredible snowfall amounts, a long duration of upsloping winds. Let's keep moving forward now. Here we go, and look at this, just dumping some tremendous snowfall here. Saturday night, Sunday. Winds will be a factor as well, gusting up to 40 or 50 miles per hour. So this is all the way into Sunday night now. Still snowing, moderate to heavy perhaps out in this part of the nation as of Sunday night. Still very cold and windy here in the northeastern part of the nation. Let's move forward now. Cold air mass in place here, but what will come out of this system early next week? Canadian model tends to weaken it quite a bit compared to the GFS model. That holds it together better than the Canadian model. I think the Canadian probably has a better handle of it. The upper level support is just dying away here by the time it reaches the Mid-Atlantic region. This is the Tuesday morning forecast map, and it also shoves it a little bit farther to the south and east. Definitely there is a threat, though, that if some of this moisture holds together, could be somewhat of a wintry mix in places like D.C., Philadelphia, Monday night into Tuesday, right in this area right here. So we'll monitor this over the next couple of days. And then that second system pushes into the Colorado Rockies, and that works its way all the way across the nation, it looks like, and moves into the Mid-Atlantic region of the Northeast U.S. later next week. We're talking Thursday, Friday of next week, and could be just cold enough in some of these interior higher elevation locations of the Northeast U.S. for some snow out of this late next week, a week away from next Thursday into Friday. Canadian has primarily rain. I think it could turn out to be a little bit colder of an event than what the Canadian is showing right here, but we'll have to monitor this over the early and middle parts of next week. But for the immediate future here in the eastern U.S., another mild day. Much colder air moves in overnight in the Mid-Atlantic region, New England, northeastern U.S. The winds will become quite a factor, gusting up to 45, 50 miles per hour or so, especially in the overnight hours from New York City north and east, but even down to D.C. and Philly. Gusty winds, not only tonight, but really all weekend long, and a much cooler weekend compared to the last few days. And the big story, of course, out in the western U.S. will be a long duration major snowstorm. Colorado, Wyoming, some parts of the western sections of the Central Plains from Friday night into Sunday night. And one other reminder here, this is the weekend where we turn the clocks ahead to switch back to daylight savings time. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.